Hi everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Shred and Soul.
I'm Shred, aka Kevin Wood.
And I'm Soul, aka Wind Hughes.
So today we're going to talk about Soundgarden. We just got done watching the induction ceremony for them, and it was really quite an achievement when you think back.
Yeah.
My first exposure with Soundgarden was in the early 80s, playing locally in Seattle. And,
well, you were with them since day one.
Well, sort of.
The beginning, I mean, Andy was Chris's roommate, so you were a part of and witness to.
A witness, yeah.
Yeah, a witness
or a participant in the scene, anyway. And it's just amazing to see that recognition for a band that, I mean, who would have thought Soundgarden? I mean, they did end up writing some awesome material and truly talented individuals, and together as a band, very much a driving force.
Yeah.
You know, I'm really proud of them for doing that. That's amazing.
I bet.
Yeah.
And personally kind of proud as friends and people you knew who were, because you, more than the average person, knows what was going on back in that day and that whole music scene and what people had to do to get noticed and to cultivate a new sound and take risks. And you were able to witness that and be a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was actually not that hard to get noticed. It was a small scene, and basically that was a door that opened for a lot of people that I don't think it's ever going to happen again. I don't see how. It probably will, but I don't see how. It was the perfect spot and the perfect point in time, and then look what happens.
Well, and a bunch of talented young musicians.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It was really sweet when we were watching the induction to see Chris's family. Well, to see the whole band, you know, thanking each other and acknowledging each other, that was really sweet. But at one point, when Chris's daughter Lily came up, Kevin was surprised. Mm-hmm. Tell him why.
Yeah, Lily was over at the house. We had a litter of puppies, and they were just the cutest little things. And I was doing a project with Susie Cornell, with Chris's sister, and they lived nearby. They lived just a few miles away from us, where we lived in Indianola, Washington. And so Lily came over one day and got to play with the puppies for a little while. And
she didn't get to take one home?
No. We were charging $500 a pop for it. I'm sure they could have, you don't just bring puppies home. But yeah, so time flies, and she sure did grow up to be a beautiful young woman.
Yeah, I was really, I didn't know her, but I was proud of her for being able to stand up there and honor her father, how emotional for her, mm-hmm. and her family, and to give gratitude, and the mm-hmm. band. I was really impressed with her, and her sister ability to do that. Well,
I saw Susan in the audience too, and I remember her from the days when Susan and Chris were together, and I would run into them every now and then on the street, and of course when I would go up to the house, I remember Chris had a picture of her, Susan, on the mantle. It was really a nice picture, and I remember them being very much devoted to one another. Time goes mm-hmm. by and things change, of course, but I have good memories of those days when people were more accessible. And speaking of accessible, Ben Shepherd he lived in my neighborhood, and he's a bit younger than me, so he kind of looked up to me as being a role model of sorts. But I ended up working with him for a little while on a new project right after Andy passed away, and we were working on a duo, and then all of a sudden we heard the news that Soundgarden needed a bass player, and so I loaned Ben my bass. It was an old, I think, a '68 Fender jazz bass, and he went and tried out and got the gig.
It was the good juju on your bass.
Yeah, I know, and he got the deal of a lifetime in considering.
Did you get the bass back?
No, I sold it to him. But it did take him a couple of years to actually pay me. But yeah, so Ben actually joined my band Devilhead after Soundgarden. He was in Soundgarden there, and I think what the deal was, he wanted Devilhead to come and open for them in Hawaii, and I think that was going to be their last gig or something. And
Ben wanted Devilhead because he was in Devilhead 2 at the time?
Well, no, before he joined Devilhead. And then when Soundgarden dissolved, he joined Devilhead, and we played a few gigs. It never got off the ground. I don't know what the for another episode, I guess we can talk about Devilhead. But yeah, it was great seeing Ben up there, and God, how time flies, and how the sands of time keep ticking, and how the cruel hand of age. And
I know you've seen Ben a number of times when you were playing in Seattle with the more contemporary version of Malfunction, and he was there at a bunch of gigs.
Yeah, we got to jam, actually, an after party for a show we did at the casino, and that was a long time coming because
that's right.
I hadn't jammed with him, and the last time I jammed with him was probably in Devilhead in 1996 or something, 94 maybe, or 97. I can't remember. But yeah, it was cool to see that happen for Soundgarden. I know Andy was so enamored with Chris. Chris had an ability to write very cool songs, and so I would imagine them being together was probably quite the scene. I didn't live there with them. We used to practice at the house that they lived in, and so I got to talk with them and get a little bit of inside info. But
did they write anything together ever?
I don't know.
I'm not aware of anything. Do you?
Something came up on one of the tribute albums or something. I think there was a release that needed to be signed by Chris's estate, or Chris actually, because he was still around, to get that released. But it was a very low quality and probably just like the demo or something.
Didn't you say Andy was jealous of Chris's songwriting ability?
I don't know if he was jealous. He probably wished he could play his guitar as well as Chris. Andy had a hybrid style, and he taught himself, and he made the most of his limited abilities. I'll tell you, he was very inventive.
What was it like, backstage, hanging out? You've talked about over the years, different things that would happen when you were backstage or in the green room, and different members of different bands would show up, and when you were opening for Soundgarden or just sharing the bill like that. What was it like back then?
Well, we're talking about a span of a few years, and back in the early days, the bands would sit out in the crowd and watch each other play in these little clubs that we would play. And I remember Regan's girlfriend was climbing all over Chris and just jumping in his lap and putting his arms around him and kissing him and stuff, and just to make Regan mad. And I remember Chris turned to me and said, "I can't believe she's doing that. I have a girlfriend." So yeah, he was a very cool guy, and I don't know. I remember backstage at a Pearl Jam show, Chris and Ben and some other guys I noticed from some other bands, maybe it was some of the Candlebox guys. I can't remember, but they were all sitting in a circle backstage and passing a bottle of whiskey around. And I was not drinking at the time. Religiously not drinking. And so I had to decline. And I always kind of miss...
Well, you missed out on a great conversation.
I missed out on a great conversation. But
God, what did they talk about? When they sat around and
I don't know.
All those guys, and probably what anyone would talk about.
Anyone would talk about. It's just
but you missed out.
I missed out on that.
Couldn't you have just sat down with them, even if you weren't drinking, or were you afraid that the bottle would go right by you and you'd take a hit?
I was a very heavy drinker in my 20s, and I had to really stay away from drinking altogether and not even be close to it, because it would just I had learned some lessons. Anyway, that's for another episode.
And am I correct that when you were in Bainbridge, you drove the Soundgarden guys to Ben's house, which turned out to be the day they broke up?
Yeah.
Did they talk? Did you get any insight as to why they broke up?
I couldn't stick around. Couldn't stick around, but actually, I was surprised that they had broken up. Although I did have privy to some information that there were some tensions, and I don't know, that album that came out after Super Unknown, it kind of fell flat. I don't want to make anybody mad by saying that, but it wasn't as good as Super Unknown. I think there was probably some disappointment in the way that turned out, and maybe pressures from the label. I can only guess. I'm not one to pry, but that was, at the time, it seemed like a pretty big deal. I guess it probably still is, but definitely changed the face of rock and roll in Seattle and the world, really, for the longest time. I mean, they didn't play. I remember Chris going out on his own and following his career, and hearing some of the amazing music that he was coming up with. Definitely, showcased his abilities.
Well, that was kind of jumping ahead. The last time you saw Chris was when we saw him play acoustically in Santa Rosa, just months before he passed away.
Right.
And that was amazing.
I've seen Chris perform solo for probably 3 times, starting in the early 2000s, and but that last time, that was 2017, I think.
Yeah. Or the end 16, of 16, somewhere there.
Somewhere 15.
You and I were teared up. We went to see him before the show backstage, and it was the first time I'd ever met Chris. And I remember he walked in, and I knew he was a tall guy. And my mind actually said, oh, they got that wrong, because he's a small dude. Because he was so thin in person. Mm-hmm. But he was tall. But I thought, this big star, this enormous human walked in, and he seemed like such a small, sweet guy. And to listen to you two just reminisce
it was
about your families and
war
the old
stories,
days.
Mostly about gigs and partying. And
but you talked a lot about your kids too. You talked like two family men getting together and talking about what was important now.
And
that struck me.
It was it was nice to see him and talk to him. I mean, it had been a long time, and I know that he was stoked like crazy when I formed Fire Ants and came to a couple of our very first shows. I remember one show he came to at the Rock Candy, I think, and I think that was the name of the venue. But that was just like a sign of the times. You have Soundgarden guys at your gig. You have, and I heard some banging on the back door, and I opened the door, and there was Pearl Jam, with their new singer, and Eddie, and so I let them in the back door, and they were all, it was just such a close knit community. And then of course, Devil Head is kind of the same thing. We opened for Soundgarden. I opened for Soundgarden, or they opened for us through Malfunction, Fire Ants, and Devil Head. And I even had an ongoing conversation with Chris about singing on some of my material. And
and you sent him Journey.
I did.
And he said,
it will happen.
He said, it'll happen. I'm going to do this. And unfortunately, he passed away, because that would have been a beautiful song. Yeah.
It's really, just another one of those things where you snooze, you lose. And I could have pressed it harder, I guess. But
So one of the things that really impressed me, again, a more contemporary story about Chris, was after the Temple of the Dog reunion, there were some feelings you had about not being included in that show. And when you reached out, Chris was the only one to respond, and I was blown away at his response to you.
Yeah,
what a guy. You contacted them about participating in Temple of the Dog reunion show.
Yeah, I wanted to play the Temple of the Dog reunion show, and I really wanted to play in Seattle because I thought that would be, something that would be easy and doable for everyone. Putting together a tour is a lot of work. There's lots of logistics, and I definitely wanted to come in and not cause a problem. And any professional would tell you, that's courtesy. You offer to do what you can to make things easy. And so, hey, I know all this material. I can show up with my band. We'll open, and it'll be great. So instead of that happening, they had a cardboard cutout of my brother on stage and an opening band. Chris had told me that there was not going to be an opening act. And I can see that. Okay, no opening act. But it turned out there was, and so, I was a little upset. So I sent an email to Chris, and it wasn't like I was out of the blue sending him an email. I had conversations off and on with him throughout the years. He was always so cool about answering emails and, getting people into shows and, just, hey, like a bro, right? So it turned out he apologized profusely about the misstep there, and his words were quite nice, and
they were humble and kind.
Yeah, humble and kind. That's a good way to describe
and he
it.
promised the next time they played, you'd be up there with them. But I just loved how he took ownership of that and was just such a heartfelt, sweet human.
Yeah, real nice guy, and water under the bridge, right?
Yeah.
So then the last time we saw him, of course, when he played here in Santa Rosa, and we did a little bit of reminiscing, and and then months later he was gone. Very shocking.
Yeah, so it was wonderful to see Soundgarden up there, and even though Chris wasn't there, his family, and to know that they did make it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and were acknowledged, Chris and all the guys in the band, and it was really an emotional thing to see.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was, it was cool too that, who would have ever thought a band like Soundgarden would make it into the Hall of Fame?
Well, Pearl Jam did. Do you think it's because their music is a little more popish or accessible?
I don't know. Well, it's amazing. Pearl Jam's an amazing success story too, and I mean, Nirvana too. I think Nirvana probably sold more records than any of them, but and they were short-lived.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. Soundgarden. It's amazing how many people just really revere Soundgarden, and to tell you the truth, I really love Black Hole Sun. And the first time I heard that on the radio, I thought, what a masterpiece of a song. And then during that tour, we played Kitsap Arena or something like that with them. This is like in the Devilhead days. And I remember them walking out of the trailer, and it was like a scene out of a Western movie, where they're walking to a gunfight. And they go up on the stage and just deliver. I mean, it was great to see.
Well, are you ready for some trivia?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. We put together a list of information, and we're going to give you the question and give you just a few seconds before we give you the answer to see how quick and on your feet you Soundgarden fans actually are. I was surprised. Hiro Yamamoto, the bass player that was there on stage, because he was one of the early bass players. That was kind of cool to see him there. Yeah. I guess there were 3 other members before Matt, Ben, Kim, and Chris.
Yeah. Well, I remember Scott Sunquist, the original drummer, and he was just the nicest guy. I mean, they were all so nice. I can't think of one person in that band that was ever kind of overbearing or not cool.
All right, so here's the first questions. We'll start with the easier ones and then move ahead to a little more difficult. Okay, so you'll have just a few seconds to come up with the answer. In what year was Soundgarden formed? 1984.
What Soundgarden album won 2 Grammy Awards? Super Unknown.
1994.
Yeah. That was their big album, too. You know, I remember hearing that on the radio constantly. Spoon Man and, of course, Black Hole Sun. And there were some other good songs. I mean, I thought their album before that, though, Bad Motor Finger, I got a pre-release version of that from Ben one night. It was on it because I still have it. And I really was impressed with the tightness and the sheer power of that album. In that album, I had a revelation, and everybody probably would have the same revelation at some point, probably before I did, but Chris sounded like Robert Plant when Robert Plant was doing like Celebration Day or, you know, one of those rockers. So, yeah, I definitely have that rock thing going on.
Why don't you take this one, because that's more up your alley.
What unusual time signature is used in the song Spoon Man? 7/4. And, you know, hey, I'm not a musical genius, but I know that song is it's a huge hit, and maybe that's why, huh?
It says that they were known for their, I didn't know this, odd time signatures. Spoon Man 7/4 and 5/4 in Outshine.
Wow.
It's a signature of theirs. And then, next question. Chris's voice, how many octaves was his voice? 4.
Yeah.
His voice ranged over 4 octaves.
That's amazing.
That's amazing. I mean, that's not all that common.
Yeah, you know, he had power too. That those background vocals in Black Hole Sun, where he's just like giving it his all, and so
Pure.
pure, yeah.
Pure voice. Perfect pitch. Pure voice.
Yeah.
What year did the band dissolve?
Was that 1997?
Yep, 1997.
Wow.
Doesn't that seem like a long time ago?
It does seem like a long time ago.
It was.
Yeah.
We're getting old.
I better check the timeline.
Yeah,
there might be some
1997.
revisions. You know, it was a long time ago.
Yeah.
And of course, the memory doesn't stay together forever.
And
Unless you write
they
it down.
reunited when?
Oh, yeah, 2010.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that reminds me. We were working with booking agent. Remember the booking
Spoon Dog.
Spoon Dog.
Spoon Dog. Shout out to them. They're no longer a company, but they were wonderful folks.
They were incredibly fond of Soundgarden, and they put out a book.
Yeah.
Remember that? It's a huge, thick
Soundgarden
picture
book
of beautiful pictures of Soundgarden.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
I wonder if it's still available. That was a great book.
I have a copy. I think I wrote a prequel.
You wrote something
That's
in
why
there.
I got
You
a
did.
copy. Yeah.
You wrote a prequel in that.
Mm-hmm.
Check it out. It's probably available somewhere.
Yeah.
And then they continued to play until when? 2017, when Chris passed away.
They were on tour when that happened too, weren't they?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. I remember during that time, my singer in Malfunction at the time, Tony West, was in Chicago, and they were playing, and he wanted to get in, so I emailed Chris, and voila, there's your tickets.
Yeah. Okay, what Grammy Awards did they win? For what song and when?
Wow, this is new to me. I don't follow the Grammys.
All right, they won 1995 Best Hard Rock Performance for Black Hole Sun, and 1995 Best Metal Performance for Spoon Man.
You know, that's part of the reason why I don't follow the Grammys, because I don't see Spoon Man as being a metal song.
Well, back in the day, things were called metal, like some of Black Sabbath's songs too.
Well,
it's not like
more
metal
like
now.
Yeah.
It was rock.
Yeah.
What we call rock, right?
Well, yeah.
Okay, next question. Let's see. What was the name of Soundgarden's debut full-length album? I didn't know this.
Ultra Mega OK.
Yep. Ultra Mega OK. Did you guys get it? What was the title of Soundgarden's 1996 album that featured Burden in My Hand?
Down on the Upside.
Yep. Are you reading it? He's cheating. What was the name of Soundgarden's first EP released in 1987?
Screaming Life.
Yep. And the last question. What Soundgarden song appears on the Singles movie soundtrack? Don't look.
Can you hum it?
No. Birth Ritual. So I'm curious how many you guys got right.
Well, I was giving them the answers. Soundgarden, I think needs to be revisited to my ears, because you can't deny the fact that people love them. And I've been around the country, and people come up to me and talk about Soundgarden with such reverence. And
they're well loved.
They
and
really
so
are.
They deserve to be inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
So here's to Soundgarden.
To Soundgarden.
Our juice. If you haven't watched the induction ceremony, it's really, really wonderful. And Jim Carrey was sort of leading the way. He was fun to watch, and it was emotional to see the family members and to see what people said about him. So we encourage you to watch that, and hope you enjoyed our little celebration of Chris and Soundgarden.
Yeah. And come back next time, and we'll have a new topic for discussion.
Thoughts, questions.
Leave your comments in the comment section, and hit subscribe if you haven't yet. And here's to Soundgarden. Congratulations,
Soundgarden.
And
you deserve it.
Yeah, totally.
Catch you later.